Normally, you can see us both on the War Room, which I usually join at 5 o'clock Eastern. Today, we'll go right into the War Room, but sitting in for Owen today will be my colleague, Rob Dew. You know, Owen, nothing I have ever done on InfoWars has had the reaction that we got last week from our visit to a gun range there in Austin, Texas, where I had the privilege of shooting some of the most extraordinary firearms that I have ever seen. The libtards' brains literally exploded into a pink mist over this, with claims, falsely, that we were in some way advocating violence or insurrection. Just the opposite is true. We do not advocate either. We will, however, defend our families. We will defend our Constitution. It's, as you know, it's Antifa who advocates violence. It's Antifa who wears black masks on their faces. We believe in peace. We believe in law and order, but we are not patsies. Now, last night, I took my family to a local Italian eatery here in the Fort Lauderdale area, where I was confronted by punks telling me that I was the most despicable human being on the face of the planet. This happens virtually every single day when libtards feel that they can invade your personal space. On my flight from Austin to New York City the other day, I was trying to doze only to be awoken with somebody who had a camera right in my face, once again insisting that I was a despicable human being because I stand up for our president and for our Constitution, and I speak out against the deep state and their efforts to convert this country to a non-democratic gulag. No, I'm not going to be silenced. I'm not going to be threatened. And I'm not going to be intimidated by your threats. But once again, we are not the ones who advocate violence. We renounce violence. I'm proud of my friendship with this president. I'm proud to stand with him, and I will continue to speak out against the illegitimate efforts to take him out, either through some illicit, trumped-up process charge by Mr. Mueller or by a deep state takedown under the 25th Amendment.
Roger, I'm actually glad that you told that story because I want to provide an example on the other end of the spectrum. I went out for dinner last night, and a group of young gentlemen came up to me who were Trump supporters and InfoWars fans, and shockingly, unlike your experience, they were polite. They were kind. They shook my hand. We had a friendly conversation, and instead of just shoving a camera in my face, they asked if they could take a picture with me, and I obliged. So that's amazing, the difference between the anti-Trumpers and the Trumpers. I mean, all you have to do is just look at their character, look at how they treat the fellow human being, and you can see who the real scum is.
No, you're absolutely right, Owen. I find it to be about a 50-50 experience. In other words, when I went to Home Slice, one of my favorite spots in Austin the other day for a quick pizza in between breaks on InfoWars, I was approached by a group of folks, mixed men and women, young people who are big InfoWars fans, wanted a selfie. They were polite. They were complimentary. It was a great experience. And they said, tell Alex Jones how much we love him. Tell Owen Schroyer how much we love him. No, we've got our fans out there. There's no question. I find it that it's geographic. If you're in New York City, you're going to find more loudmouths and more scumbags. If you're in Austin, Texas, other parts of Texas, you're going to find more patriots. But there's no excuse for lack of manners. There's no excuse for the rudeness and the name calling. But as I have said, as one of Stone's rules, the only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about. And it is better to be infamous than never be famous at all.
Well, you know, Roger, the thing that doesn't get talked about enough is just by publicly supporting Trump or publicly voicing your conservative political ideologies, you're hated, you're scorned, you're dehumanized. And I don't think people understand that. I didn't get into political media so that people would hate me. I didn't get into political media so that people would be looking out for me and to try to bring me down. No, I got into it because I have political ideas and I have conservative beliefs. But just like you said, when you run into, conservatives or fans of ours, it's always a love fest. We're always getting along. Everyone's smiling, having a great conversation. When you run into a libtard or Antifa or a Trump hater, it's always hate. They're always cursing. They're angry. They're violent. And so this is what I don't understand. I was telling this story earlier. I don't know if you heard it, but I was back in town in St. Louis over Christmas break, and I had some friends that I hadn't seen in a long, long time. But they know what I do now, and they're like, man, Owen, what happened to you? You used to be so happy. You used to be so cool. You used to be smiling and friendly and nice to everyone. Now you're just this hateful fearmonger full of anger and rage. I'm like, wait a second. No, I'm not. I'm the same guy I've always been. They're the ones that are filled with hate and rage. And this is the key that I discovered, Roger. And this is what they don't understand. I have such a capacity for love, and I love fellow humans so much that when I see my fellow human under attack, whether it be the poison in the water, whether it be with abortion, whether it be with the vaccines, see, now you're attacking something I love. That's an instinct to get fired up about that. That doesn't mean we're hateful or angry. That means we have a defense of something we love. We're not driven by hate. We're driven by love. They're genuinely driven by hate of Donald Trump. They're driven by hate of Alex Jones, and they're driven by hate of our political ideologies. The left, the Democrat Party, has become the biggest hate group in the history of this country.
No, I think that's absolutely true. I must tell you, prior to 2016, I had many, many friends who were Democrats, many professional Democrats, many friends in the media who I did not see eye to eye with. And in all cases, those relations were respectful and cordial. I had friends at CNN. I got along pretty well with Anderson Cooper and Brian Stelter and others there. But I've seen the deterioration of that, and it's not because of us. It's because of them. There is a new militancy, a new outrage on the left where they just cannot accept the results of the last election. Look, this is really, really simple. The election's over. You lost. We put up with 8 years of Barack Obama. I didn't like the Obama presidency. I didn't like the Obama policies, but I realized the elections had been taken and were over and that we lost, probably because we nominated two extraordinarily weak candidates. What you can't fathom today is their inability to accept the results of the last election. I saw Hillary Clinton's photo today. She looks like she's gained about 50 pounds since the election. Looks to me like she can't accept the results either, Owen.
Yeah, and she's got, a boot on her foot walking around. People have rumored that might be some ankle bracelet, because she's, on house arrest or she can't leave the country or whatever. I don't know if any of that's true, but, she was never healthy, Roger. I mean, she's been sickly ever since this for years now. I mean, she's got holes in her tongue. She can't stop coughing. She coughs up little green goblins into a cup. She falls over and faints. She looks like, oh, the balloons in the sky. Oh, So, I mean, yeah, Hillary Clinton, that's what it is. You're always attracted to something similar to you. Hillary Clinton is a sick, corrupt individual. So, of course, all the sick, corrupt individuals in society would gravitate towards Hillary Clinton. It actually makes sense.
Owen, welcome back. We're here on the Alex Jones Show with my colleague, Owen Schroyer. And one thing Owen and I are going to do together in the new year is to bring more and more young, dynamic, conservative congressional candidates to the public consciousness. It was Owen Schroyer who discovered hard-charging Omar Navarro challenging Maxine Waters in California's 39th district. We had Carla Spalding challenging Deborah Wasserman Schultz in the Fort Lauderdale district in Florida. And we are going to be interviewing Joy Villa, who is, I think, best known as the singer-entertainer who wore a Make America Great dress to the Grammys. Now, she has emerged as one of the most effective and articulate proponents of this president and his reform agenda. She has announced her intention to seek a congressional seat in the state of Florida. I expect an announcement from her early next year. But she was in the news this past week because she has filed a complaint with the D.C. Metropolitan Police, claiming that former campaign manager for Donald Trump, Corey Lewandowski, sexually assaulted her, specifically slapping her on the rump at a public party at the Trump Hotel in Washington, D.C. As I understand the media reports, an inebriated Lewandowski approached her, was introduced by a mutual friend, whereupon he smacked her on the bottom. She asked him to stop, and then he smacked her again. Now, we have a clip of Mr. Lewandowski and his response, and in all fairness, let's roll that so that he can have his say here as well.
Singer Joy Villa, a Trump supporter, filed a sexual assault complaint against former Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski. Villa claims she was assaulted at a party at the Trump International Hotel in Washington last month. Joining us now is Corey Lewandowski. And Corey, of course, I'd like to have your response to Villa's accusations.
Well, Charles, I think as someone who's been through this, you understand that there is a due process, and there is a process which they will go through to determine a person's innocence, which I think you've been through, and you understand it and you respect it.
Yeah, I think everyone understands and respects it in this, but a lot of people are wondering why someone who is so close to President Trump as you are, someone who's been rooting for President Trump like Joy has, motivate her. What do you think is motivating her with these accusations where she says she has at least 2 witnesses?
You know, Charles, that's a question for her. I'm not here to speak for Joy. What I am here to do is to speak for me. And what I am going to do is to let the process play forward, just as you did when you're accused of sexual harassment in your own case.
There you have it, Corey Lewandowski's response. Now, I think it is important to know that Joy Villa has 2 witnesses, and it is my understanding that the D.C. Metropolitan Police have obtained the security camera footage from that night at the Trump Hotel. So, indeed, let's let the process go forward. I'm a believer in due process. But I must say, I believe Joy Villa. I have found her to be an articulate and a vivacious a proponent of the president's agenda. I think that her support for the president is most valuable, and we'll be covering both sides of this story. Owen?
Well, I got a couple things to say here. Let me just start with the sexual assault allegations. Now, I'm not talking about this individual case. I'm just saying in general. Is slapping someone on the butt once really sexual assault? I mean, is this really something that needs to go to court? I guess you can ask that women that. But if a woman slapped me on the butt a couple times because she was drunk, I wouldn't be thinking about a lawsuit. You've got stories where women are saying, Trump asked me for my phone number. So, I mean, we're really skating on a thin line here, I think, with what is sexual assault. And I think we need to remember that there are actual victims out there that, you know, deal with penetration and rape, like Bill Clinton's victims. So, you know, before you start throwing around sexual assault because someone, you know, patted you on the butt or whatever, or asked for a phone number, I think we need to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves here. Again, I'm not necessarily commenting on that one story, just commenting overall in general. But then, Roger, oh my gosh, you want to talk about bombshell? You're telling me that the D.C. Metropolitan Police are reviewing footage of this alleged sexual assault? Is that what you said?
That's my understanding now.
Okay, but real quick, I just got to pause you right there. So the D.C. the D.C. Metropolitan Police are reviewing footage of Corey Lewandowski allegedly slapping Joy Villa's butt, yet nothing on Seth Rich. I can't get any footage on Seth Rich. I can't get any investigation into Seth Rich. We get nothing on Seth Rich, and we have police looking at footage of Joy Villa and Corey Lewandowski. Boy, if that doesn't show you how backwards and twisted justice is right now, I don't know what does. Sorry, Roger, this is just crazy.
Well, but in this case, Miss Villa has filed a formal complaint with the D.C. police. Oh, and there's a huge difference between somebody smacking another person and asking for a telephone number. And yes, under the laws of the District of Columbia, that does amount to sexual battery, to sexual assault. So let's let the process carry through here. What I do object to is this idea that, for example, because Leanne Tweeden was once a Playboy model, she cannot be sexually harassed or assaulted, or that because there's a photo of Joy Villa that is somewhat sexy, that she cannot be sexually assaulted. I firmly disagree. Let's let the process take its course. But photos of her, like we're showing now, have nothing to do with what transpired. Because someone is depicted in a sexy attire does not mean that they cannot be sexually assaulted. They most definitely can.
And I'm just glad, I mean, again, you know, my opinions are my opinions. I would hope that from now on, at least, you know, when people are going to make these allegations, if you're seriously going to make these allegations, I mean, at least follow through. You know what I'm saying? If this is going to happen, at least follow through. So 30 years down the road, if someone wants to, you know, run for office or something, all of a sudden, oh, he assaulted me 30 years ago. He can't run for office now. So, I mean, at least that's one thing. I mean, if you think you're sexually assaulted, at least, you know, move forward with some charges. So at least that's one thing.
Well, and she has done that, which is the appropriate thing to do here. Look, I have been a critic of Corey Lewandowski. That is no secret. This is not the first time he's been accused of manhandling a woman inappropriately. There was an entire period in which the campaign of Donald Trump got off message because of his alleged roughing up a reporter, a woman reporter, during the campaign while at a campaign appearance here in Florida. So there's a pattern here that I find disturbing. Let's see where the process goes, Owen.
Well, and again, I think it's nuts. I saw no stories of the D.C. police looking at any camera footage the night of Seth Rich murder. I know it's a totally different story and everything. That, to me, is just like, whoa. Okay, so who knows if they ever saw any of that footage, but apparently investigations into Seth Rich may or may not be getting a little more interest. Well, we've got just over a couple minutes left here, or just over a minute and a half left here. Roger, before you go over to the war room, what are you guys going to be covering over there today?
Well, I think we're going to be talking quite a bit about the General Flynn situation and the fact that his brother, Joseph, has made a very, I think, strong appeal for a pardon. Now is the time of year that the president can mete out mercy and has the full authority for a pardon. And I think a pardon for General Flynn would be appropriate. He has clearly been entrapped. Let's be very clear. First, they illegally surveilled him to learn everything he was doing. Then I imagine they came up with a list of questions, and then they burst into his office at 8 o'clock in the morning when he had no attorney present, and the good general spoke to them openly. They probably went through a list of questions until they found someplace where he contradicted himself. To me, the whole process is phony. His confession is phony, and he's being crucified unfairly. I hope with all my heart that the presidents will consider a pardon for General Flynn. Like you, I was encouraged the other day when asked about this, and the president said, well, let's see. To me, that was leaving the door open.
And at least, you know, he's considering it or has thought about it. So I would completely agree. General Flynn wasn't trapped. He does not belong. He doesn't, you know, what's been charged against him is just made up. It's ludicrous. They made up the entire investigation.
We will make America great again.